I found out my boyfriend had a dating app while we were together. He wants another chance. Any advice? Hi, I'm 20 years old, and I need some advice. My boyfriend, who's 21, and I have been together for almost a year. Everything seemed perfect between us. We've even been living together for the last few months, and honestly, I felt like we were in a really good place. Some context about him: he's always had this strong dislike for dating apps. One of our friends is on them all the time, and he always tells her how pointless it is. She won't find anything serious that way. I admired that about him. He seemed so committed, so sure of what he wanted. But then, 3 days ago, my world shifted. One of my friends randomly came across his Tinder profile and sent me the screenshots. It was pure chance. She had accidentally set her location to the wrong area, and boom, there he was. I couldn't believe it. The guy who constantly told our friend to get off dating apps had his own profile. It was like a punch to the gut. When I confronted him, I asked, "Did you really think I wouldn't find out?" And, to my shock, he said no, he didn't think I would. He admitted everything right there. He swore he never met up with anyone, just exchanged shallow messages with random people. And for some reason, I believe him. But that doesn't make it any less painful. He told me he had this routine. He would download Tinder for 3 days a month, use it, and then delete both the app and his account. And this had been going on for the last 3 months. When I asked why he'd risk everything, risk us, just to talk to strangers, he said it was out of boredom. But it wasn't just that. He went on to say he had always done this in his past relationships because he couldn't commit. He told me there were 2 voices in his head. One voice was saying that this relationship with me was good, that he should stick with it. But the other voice kept telling him he wasn't good enough, that he needed to leave before I left him. That was hard to hear. It hurt knowing that while I felt secure in our relationship, he was struggling with doubts. But then, he said something even more surprising. He confessed that he had lied about something else, something much bigger. He plays soccer, and he has these scars on his legs. He'd always told me they were from a soccer injury that required surgery. I never questioned it. It made sense, and I trusted him. But 3 years ago, long before we met, he went to Turkey. He had told me it was for a study abroad program, and again, I never thought twice about it. It seemed totally believable. As he told me all of this, I could see the pain in his eyes. He confessed that he struggles with self-image and trust issues. He said he's afraid that people are only with him for superficial reasons. After the surgery, he started getting more attention from others, but that only made it harder for him to believe anyone truly cared for him. It was like he couldn't trust anyone, including me. I didn't know how to respond to all of this. He admitted that what he did was wrong and that I didn't deserve any of it. But he also said that using the apps wasn't about meeting anyone or cheating. It was about feeling validated. It made him feel less alone, even though it was a temporary fix. When I asked why he didn't just come to me in those moments, why he couldn't text or call me instead of turning to strangers, his answer shattered me. He said he was scared of getting more attached to me, scared that I would leave him too. So instead of trusting me, instead of believing that I would stay, he chose to self-sabotage. He even admitted that part of him hoped I'd find out, just so I would leave, because in his mind, it was only a matter of time before I did anyway. Now, he's full of regret. He's apologizing and begging for another chance, saying he wants to make things right. He swears he'll never do it again and that he's willing to go to therapy to work on his issues. But here's the thing. I'm torn. I still love him, and I want to believe he can change. But how do you trust someone after they've admitted to lying and sabotaging the relationship? How do I know he won't do it again the next time he feels lonely or insecure? I don't want to feel like I'm some kind of consolation prize. I could see that he was good to me in a lot of ways during our time together. There were so many moments when I genuinely felt loved. But now, it's hard to reconcile that with what I've learned. After that conversation, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story. Something deeper than just his insecurities. As much as I wanted to take space and think things through, a part of me felt like walking away wasn't the right choice just yet. Maybe it was the way he looked at me, or how he kept insisting he would do whatever it took to fix things. It stirred something in me. Curiosity, maybe. Was there more to this than I was seeing? I decided to give him one last chance, but with boundaries. I told him that if we were going to continue, there had to be full transparency. No more secrets, no more excuses. He agreed and seemed genuinely determined to make things right. He started going to therapy like he promised, and we had long conversations about trust and what it meant to rebuild it. For a while, things seemed to improve. He opened up to me more, and I could see he was making an effort to be honest about his feelings and struggles. But something still felt off. It wasn't just his past or the dating apps. It was like there was a piece of the puzzle missing. One night, as we were sitting on the couch, I asked him directly, "Is there anything else you're not telling me? Anything at all?" He hesitated for a moment, then sighed, looking down at his hands. "There's one more thing," he said softly, "but I don't know if you'll understand." My heart sank. I thought we had already gone through everything, but here it was, the last piece I had been sensing all along. He took a deep breath and began speaking. "Remember when I told you I went to Turkey for the leg lengthening surgery? That was true, but there was more to it than just the surgery. I didn't just go there because I was insecure about my height. I went because I was running away." "Running away from what?" I asked, my chest tightening as I braced myself for whatever was coming next. He paused for a long moment, clearly struggling to find the right words. "From my past," he finally said. "From a life I didn't want you to know about." "What are you talking about?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He stood up and started pacing, clearly agitated. "Before we met, before I moved here, I was involved in something illegal." He glanced at me, his face pale. "I was part of a group back in my home country that was doing some very shady stuff, smuggling, to be exact." My mind was reeling. Smuggling? What was he talking about? He had always seemed so normal, so grounded. This didn't make any sense. "I didn't have much of a choice," he continued. "I was in debt, bad debt, and the people I owed weren't the kind you could just walk away from. So I did what they asked, and for a while, it worked. I paid them off. But then it got worse. I couldn't just leave. They threatened my family, and I had to do more jobs, more dangerous stuff." I sat there, speechless. This was a side of him I never imagined existed. "So, I left," he said, his voice shaking. "That trip to Turkey? It wasn't just for the surgery. I was hiding. I knew that if I stayed, I'd get pulled deeper, and eventually I wouldn't be able to leave at all. But even now, they know where I am. They've kept tabs on me." My heart was pounding in my chest. "So, are you still involved? Are you in danger?" "No," he said quickly. "I've cut all ties. They stopped reaching out after a while, but I never stopped looking over my shoulder. And I never told anyone about it, not even you, because I was ashamed, and scared that if you knew, you'd leave me for good." I didn't know how to respond. This was too much. Everything I thought I knew about him was being turned upside down. "So the dating apps?" I asked, still trying to piece it all together. "Was that because of this too?" He shook his head. "No, that was my own stupid insecurity. It had nothing to do with the past. But everything else, the way I've been acting, the paranoia, the lies, they're all connected to what I went through back then." I sat in stunned silence, trying to process what he had just told me. Could I trust him after this? Could I forgive him for keeping such a huge part of his life hidden from me? But more than that, was he safe? Were we safe? The room felt heavy with tension. His confession had opened a door to a past I hadn't known existed, and now I was standing in the middle of a new reality, one where our problems went far beyond dating apps and trust issues. This was about survival, about whether or not I wanted to stay tied to someone with such a dark and dangerous past. He looked at me, desperation in his eyes. "I'm telling you this because I don't want any more secrets between us. I want to make this work, but I can't do it if I'm hiding things from you. I need you to know everything. But I understand if this is too much. If you want to walk away, I won't stop you." I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the decision that lay ahead of me. This wasn't just about trust anymore. It was about my safety, my future. Could I really build a life with someone who had been involved in something so dangerous? But as I looked at him, I saw more than just his past. I saw the man I had fallen in love with, the one who had been trying, despite everything, to be better. I saw the vulnerability in his eyes, the fear that I would abandon him now that I knew the truth. And I realized that while his past was complicated, so was mine. "Everyone has their demons. I need time," I finally said, my voice steady despite the chaos in my mind. "I need to think about this, about everything." He nodded, looking relieved that I hadn't immediately walked out the door. Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere. As he left that night, I sat alone, staring out the window. My mind raced with questions. Could we move past this together? Or was it time to truly let go? For now, I didn't have the answers. But one thing was certain. Nothing about this relationship would ever be simple again.